Okay, I'll work on the skeletons. You guys deal with Ganglion.
You know, I think that's a great idea. I think you should deal with the skeletons. In fact, I would recommend you shooting them right between the eyes. It's the perfect way to get rid of them. Trust me, I know skeletons, and I know you're great at this, so why don't you just get going on that? I agree.
I hear Ganglion supporting my idea, and surprisingly, me doing something, I enjoy when I do things. When someone tells me to do things that I was already going to do, kind of pisses me off. I shoot my bow at one of the skeletons.
The rage inside of Arcat was apparent as the shot just rang out, flying straight through, piercing into the skeleton and almost immediately knocking its head off. Taking the lead of Arcat, I immediately reached down for an arrow, but then remembered that I only had one. I scavenged and it's already gone. The axe was down the cliff, but there really wasn't too much I could do. So instead, I reverted down to the one idea that they seemed to have, the one that was given to me by Yayo. So I immediately sprinted across, moving around this obvious cracked floor, reached down, grabbed the bones on the ground, and just full body tossed them at the other skeleton right over here. Being tossed through the air, the skeleton just sort of rang out. A strange effect of bone on bone causing a just splash down on the ground. I watched the skeleton almost seem to reform itself, and as it does, it seems like it sort of missed between the two. Part of its bones were a bit too long and short. It seemed to awkwardly lean back and forth as it attempted to approach. Its attack was rather simple, as it sort of moved up and simply went in for a shove. Perhaps the simplest is the most effective, however. The strength of the skeleton sort of caught me off guard as it leaned forward with all of its bony mass and knocked me back. As I stepped down on this trap, I felt the ground sort of shake for a moment as almost very momentarily, very quickly, however, the ground started to shift and move and it almost seemed to start to collapse down in on itself. As I fell down into the trap, I felt my body being impaled by multiple spikes. I expected any amount of pain or anything like that, but on the other hand, I just looked down and felt a minor sting as my body seemed to shake and multiple bloody wounds began to form. It honestly didn't really seem to stop me as much as I thought it would. Responding to the immediate barrage of traps, Stray Guy's eyes drifted across the arena. He pieced around, noticing a few things, such as scratch marks on the ground where saw blades seemed to swing down at you almost randomly. On top of that, more traps seemed to be aligned as slight little inconsistencies on the ground were apparent, with things such as the way the tiles were bending. It seemed the left path almost entirely was covered with traps. On the right side, however, it seemed as though there was simply one singular saw trap, at least in the immediate direction, that seemed to hang up above and sort of just prepare to swing down on a moment's notice.
The right path seems to be the only one that's super clear. Obviously, Ganglion's a problem, but, you know.
You know, you're right. I am kind of a problem. I should really fix that. Hey, I could point out some traps for you if you'd like. I'd love to point out traps for you. It would be great if I could point out some traps for you. Why don't I do that?
Ganglion was swiftly ignored. Upon being ignored, Ganglion almost seemed to pulse slightly as the stake in his head almost seemed to shift ever so slightly deeper in.
Ow!
Oh
He's not helpful!
Hey, Ganglion, you know what would be massively, massively helpful right now?
What would be helpful? How could I help you?
Why don't you guide all of your wonderful skeletons towards some of those traps, you know, to test how effective they are.
Wow, that's a great idea. Skeletons, go stand on some traps, why don't you?
Oh my god.
I watched as a number of the skeletons, peeking my head as I slowly pulled myself out of the spikes. You could see one of the skeletons walk to the nearest trap as it stepped on over. No trap seemed to really go off, however, as it sort of moved its way in that direction. Similarly, some of the other skeletons started moving up, one stepping directly down and standing over another slit on the ground, and the other ones seemed to step off in the far end direction, moving up directly up north. They all seemed to stand, but in that moment we noticed that there was not even a single one trap being set off, even though that was supposedly what they were standing on.
Good job.
Absolutely, I'm so glad to help. Who's next?
Hey, you do know that your brainstem is exposed.
Painfully!
I agree.
The strike with the needle was swift, as Gartrinus almost stabbed in, immediately going for an exposed nerve. And what I saw then was rather terrifying, as the form almost seemed to bend and twist around, moving around as the entire body began to shift around as the slime began to almost tear its way through.
Thankfully, my body is fully immune to any sort of physical damage due to the excellent, wonderful existence the Lich has given me. Thanking him every day for my eternal happiness and this wonderfully immortal form. Please be careful though. If any of it gets into an exposed orifice, it will begin to bleed inside of your— oh my god, it's in your eyes. I am so sorry. I did not mean to cause you any sort of pain.
Die.
As Ganglion's form is shifted ever so slightly, he's almost pushed and moved on into the next tile. Even though it's obvious there's a trap there, however, there doesn't seem to be any sort of physical reaction as the trap doesn't seem to go off. Something about it seemed odd. Gartrinus noticed there was something wrong, but there seemed to be something beginning to form in his mind. The designer's brain started to get very distracted with the design of this specific dungeon area, but not yet did the secret make itself apparent. The skeletons began moving more directly. One began to move up and again just tried to sort of, well, it was interesting actually. It seemed like it was just going to go for a shove like the other, but there's one thing about skeletons and their design. Intrinsically, all of them, to some degree, have a bit of human emotion left inside of them. It's false, or at least that's as far as we understand it, but occasionally there are these echoes, these remnants, autonomized versions of some sort of command or ability that a skeleton might call upon, almost utterly randomly. As I watched the skeleton begin to shift, it sort of ducked down quickly with a swift movement, reaching down and grabbing a rather sharp rock on the ground that was cut open from one of the nearby blades. It sort of moved over to the side and almost slid over as it sort of began jabbing at different points. It was at this point I realized, even though she was plunged in the deep acid, it seems that all really seemed to accomplish was cleaning out her organs, as I noticed across the way that the form across seemed to move exactly in the way that Mary once did, as it sort of shifted across and started stabbing a number of different ways into Strege. The blows came quick, but Strege managed to be quicker, sort of ducking down lower than the skeleton of Mary's form as it sort of just began stabbing out rapidly. It then proceeded to try to do the exact same trick again and was almost even more easily dodged. And finally, the last skeleton almost seemed to just start to full sprint down across the way, making its way close down and then just sort of stopping.
I'm going to knock an arrow and aim at the little stem thingy hanging out from his brain. All right. Steady aim.
As the shot sang through, it impacted against the whisper that was almost attached into Ganglion's head, which started to vibrate and twist around, twirling up inside of his head and attached to his brain. It seemed to cause him no shortage of physical pain.
Gaio, I think there's something weird about that thing in his brain. Pull it out.
Pull it out? Hold on.
Please don't do that. I would very much be hurt if you pulled that out of my head.
Is he lying?
He's not lying.
Hold on. I want to try something. Ganglion,
Yes?
do you know why we're here today?
No.
I'm actually here to register a complaint on behalf of the community.
Oh, well, I think that's a great point. I think we should all be working together to try to work out a nice essential agreement between all
Well,
of
that's
us.
the problem.
Yes?
We aren't working together right now. And I have to say, it has to do with how dissatisfied we are with your performance as a community liaison.
A large jolt of energy is resonating throughout Ganglion's form as immediately his entire body shakes and vibrates in response to the negative criticism.
My deepest apologies. I hope we can find a solution that benefits everyone. It is my deepest desire to see you better.
Oh my god.
Meanwhile, the skeleton form of Mary began to charge forward and once again
God.
did the exact same combo blow against Strege. Despite the predictability, it was nevertheless still fast. The blows go in and jab into the cloak that Strege had, their speed managing to catch up with him as the multiple holes that began to poke through began to bleed just slight little bit of blood. And following that up, it seemed that another skeleton began to move forward, sort of charging its way forward, running past the different traps that would not trigger from its approach. It sort of ran across the way, moving past Strege and attempts to shove Gartrinus against the wall, pressing back into the door and almost banging his head against it as he collapsed down to the ground.
Even though my head was spinning and I could feel that something in my ribs had cracked, I knew that I had to try and focus in on what on earth was going on with the traps here. I had hoped that moving Ganglion onto a trap would have been a swift and sticky end, but there's clearly something I'm missing. My head reeling, I take a look across the floor of this space. Why didn't Ganglion move further down? It was because they were sticky? No. If they're just a liquid and a single wooden stake, they mustn't weigh very much at all. Neither the skeletons, most likely. Hey, maybe we should put some more weight on him or something. That might do the trick to shift the floor. Ow.
With a swift motion, I saw Strege reposition himself, moving behind the skeleton and almost seeming to just lift up with 4 arms, and then full body chucking and pushing the skeleton as this form of Mary just sort of collapsed back inside of the pit, falling down there. The toss seemed to be strong enough in hitting the spikes that the form almost seemed to just break apart, like a number of different bottles just clinking and clacking their way down into the pit itself. I sort of watched as I sat in there with her, and we both once more returned to the pit. I stared at her skull, looking at her for a moment, and I just sort of reflected for a bit. I thought about it. It had been so long, and she was a bloodthirsty killer, but at the very least she was decently nicer than the other ones. I reached over to grab her skull, wondering for a moment if maybe it would be nice and a good thing to do to try to commit some type of funeral rite for her later. But then, as I did that, I reached over and grabbed the skull. There was a strange temptation I felt as I looked at it, holding it in my hand with one palm, seeing my own bony hand sort of gripping on it. I stared, and I don't really quite remember what happened yet. For a moment, I sort of blanked out. Very quickly, I slammed the skull down, breaking it open like a coconut, and then I just sort of... I don't quite know what happened, but I felt a lot better. I felt myself almost fully being restored and rejuvenated and brought back to my full attention. The tasty, delicious internal brain was a perfect boost I needed to pull myself out, getting outside, moving myself up. I found myself standing there and then turned in every which direction. As I took a moment to appreciate being out of the hole, another skeleton came by and immediately tried to shove me back in. Despite his attempt, I was not having it, and I simply sort of ducked to the side and pushed the arm away as the skeleton sort of returned to a neutral stance. And then, almost immediately following,
I am so sorry. I did not mean to be bad. I will do everything in my power to improve our social standing. Everyone, please wait. I think we all need to have a serious talk about hurting each other and how it is not effective as a means of furthering the community. I think we could all sit down right now, have a good conversation about how to make everyone happy.
I sat down, fully and deeply feeling not only his plea, but fully humoring the being in front of me, that on so many different occasions really reached out to get in touch with us at the community. You know what? You're right.
I'm right.
You're so right. Let's have a productive conversation about
Absolutely.
about what you can do better to assist the community.
Absolutely. I can think of 1,000 different things I could do better. In fact, why don't you...
1,000 different things?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yes.
I don't know. Okay, so if you already, I mean, why should I start? It already sounds like you've got a good idea. So,
Oh, you're so right. I know I'm an incredibly rude person.
Right, you're rude.
I'm very mean and have been told that all the time. Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, I'm very rude. In fact, I think I'm probably the worst person in the world. I really have to improve on my ability to talk to people effectively.
Oh, I mean, I guess that's one of the problems, right?
What?
I mean, you already know all this, and yet, what have you done to improve?
I am a terrible, worthless person, and I have not been able to change.
Garchinus, can you just jump really quickly?
Absolutely. But the way that he self-flagellates makes me like him even less.
Yeah. A lot less.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
And I tag a prop, this carpet, as I pull the rug out from under the skeleton and make it drop to the floor.
Nice.
The rug is pulled out from underneath the skeleton. Almost immediately, it stumbles on backward, banging its head against the ground, and its body sort of falling apart for a moment before one arm starts to reach over and slowly reassemble itself.
All right, Garchinus, you can take it out.
Yes, I suppose it's owed a drubbing from what it did to me. Right. Well, it seems your boss is going through something at the moment, so I suppose you have been, seized in corporate restructure.
The skeleton is slowly disassembled, its body being pulled apart by strings as it sort of hits against the ground, the entire form sort of being strewn about. I watched as Garchinus, assembling what some form of strange multi-club stance, holding 4 bones in hands, sort of waving them around in a moment after disassembling the body of the skeleton.
Do not forget, Arcat. Friends and ancestors stay with us still. Their memories will not be forgotten.
Yeah. I jump in joy a little bit.
Now, Ganglion,
Yes.
I'm going to beat the absolute satyr out of you.
I deserve it. Please, good luck. You should really hit me on the head because the shockwave still hurts my brain a little bit. I think my new role in the community is a communal punching bag to get inbuilt aggression out.
Good to know.
I know you are not a member of the community, but I would like to welcome you formally. Please hit me senseless.
But I suppose I shouldn't hog that all to myself. Yaya?
I draw myself to my full height, my attention being drawn backwards towards Garchinus. Reaching into my pack and pulling out something, I produce, with my legendary forethought, the very item that drove us into debt. Here, before that poison takes you down naturally, here you go. Some poison for your poison. I throw the vial of disgusting liquid over.
Thank you very much, my dear merchant. Melanius, if you wouldn't mind.
What?
Have you gone?
Oh, no, I stared off a bit. I ate something.
Okay, whatever.
A Strege came from behind. The skeleton, recognizing it as being grabbed, very swiftly turned around. And in that moment, it seemed to return with a counter grab, turning around and almost locking arms against Strege. Almost like in a natural response, it seemed to engage with some form of martial art, locking itself to the ground to the best of its light, bony ability could, as it sort of just stood there and locked arms with Strege. As I turned around once more to attempt to move away from the skeleton, I saw Garchinus put that strange vial up to his lips. As his face screwed up and he drank it down, I once more gained an appreciation for a lack of a sense, this time taste, as truly his expression was utmost vile.
What was in that?
Poison.
Well, that tracks. That was awful.
The label said nondescript, but I think there are a lot of descriptions that could actually work for that poison.
Everyone began scrambling, and in that moment I was face to face with this strange martial arts skeleton. With very little really to do in this situation, no weapons or anything, I just sort of defaulted to the first thing that came to mind. If it wanted to grapple me, that was fine. I would just simply do that. It seems I've gotten rather efficient at one thing after my death, and at that one thing I intended to repeat on end until I got better at dealing with it, and that was falling. Letting it grab onto me, I simply pulled my body weight down, plunging down into the spiked pit with the skeleton. Both of us sank down beneath, getting pierced and jumbled as I once more watched a skeleton descend into a pile of bones. And then I did something else, too. I think this time, Strege was watching me as I cracked open the skull and just enjoyed a nice, refreshing taste. As I finished and sort of looked up at him, I sort of locked eyes for a moment as I sort of stared, caught myself, finally being aware of what I was doing.
Oh. You good down there?
I'm fine. Can you help me up?
Sure.
I reached up and locked hands. Viscera still on my fingers, I sort of gripped tightly onto Strege as he sort of pulled me back up and out of the hole. Sorry, do you have a napkin? Do you have some form of thing I can wipe off on?
No.
Right. Ganglion, you're pathetic.
I know. In fact, I think it's time for me to do a lot of self-reflection and really kind of work on myself. It seems as though the skeletons are dead, and I have no option but to work on myself for the sake of the community. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm glad at the very least you recognize that.
Thank you. Please put an approximate about 15 more pounds of weight on my person. Just shove me a little. Like harder. Like down, too. Please.
Oh, it's fine. I've got this.
Oh, hello, newcomer.
Hi. You have been a terrible first impression to my time here, and I hope I never see you in the community again. Farewell.
Thank you for your appropriate level of feedback.
I watched as very swiftly the cracks on the floor. Ganglion sort of just seemed to bend down, the extra weight pushing him off in this direction as he moved down.
Now this is a very interesting trap. Please observe carefully. After all, there are more traps in the room that it'll come down to you to examine. After I step on this pressure plate, immediately a large rock will tumble.
Oh, seems he's on unpaid leave.
Wow.
Honestly?
How are we feeling? I want to perish with what I just drank.
Melanius,
Yes?
you have some skeleton on your face.
Oh, crap. I swiftly grabbed one of my sleeves and sort of started wiping it off. The one with the other side was still a bit bloody, so it just sort of blended in rather well. I turned over. Well, it seems as though an assassination has been successfully put off. I don't really feel good. I don't really feel bad either. I just feel nothing.
It's supposed to feel good?
No, it's just
I mean, what kind of
there's not really much closure there.
what kind of a weirdo would feel good after an assassination? At the very least, we should feel good about the fact that that isn't going to... Come on, you gotta feel good about the idea that Ganglion won't be bothered. You won't need to hear his voice ever again, right?
I suppose that is a good thing, yes.
See?
Are we sure that's the only Ganglion?
I don't even know if he...
Please don't rain on our parade.
You know? Yeah. Huh. That's nice. It's so quiet. I like it. Huh.
Okay. there you go. Congratulations again. A beautiful smile, considering the circumstances. Little weird, but we can work on it.
What's weird?
The appreciating the assassination of her beloved community outreach individual slime creature.
You know,
You're giving me mixed signals here. Am I supposed to be happy or sad?
you can be happy, I think.
Oh,
Crushed.
okay. Yeah. Like by a rock? Oh.
I mean, it's one thing to have to, I suppose, do the work of the lich that employed him before, but the way that it was so put on, like none of this was something he was doing, but he was just the executor of, like it was out of his gelatinous hands. I don't know, that kind of philosophy really winds me up.
Yeah, it's You know, you were talking about how the dungeon and the mountain have a will of their own.
Mm-hmm.
To some extent, if this is all part of one large ecosystem, wouldn't that existence be part of it? Wouldn't your new state of being be part of it? It's one of the reasons why I call it chaotic, but sometimes the best way to put it is needlessly cruel.
Well, I'll accept all of that.
Fair enough.
The world as a whole seems to have its spikes of cruelty. So the best we can do is smile and laugh whenever it gets quiet. I stared back at the rock for a moment, and it was that moment of looking away that I probably made a miscalculation. It was only Strege who seemed to be fully aware of what happened next, at least for the first moment. Perhaps it was his angle. Emerging from a strange vent nearby with small wooden shaping like window holes, there was a rattling. As your attention was drawn to it, something sort of seemed to twist and emerge, till eventually a form came out, made of different types of some kind of soft substance. It seemed to be knitted with clothes that were very light and almost entirely imperceptible as anything other than just a perfectly wonderful doll. But the doll, when its mouth opened, you could see beyond that. The outer forms and the stitchings were more apparent, with a gnashing, terrible teeth that seemed to line inside, the teeth of a pure carnivore, and a grin that sort of sparked up as she stared directly at a red ribbon casting deeper inside.
Wow! Look at that! I didn't expect any of you to actually beat him. That's incredible! Good job, good job, good job!
Thank you.
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. There are so many people here, and I'm just so excited to meet you all. Hi, I'm Sweet. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Hi, Sweet. Yayo Mello, Yayo. Representative Yayo Mello, Yayo Goods. A pleasure to see you. I am a merchant and a neutral party.
Well, that's so cool. I'm once again Miss Sweet, and I raise a hand to you.
Oh. She raises up, at least immediately, a tiny little pawed hand with no fingers, just one singular thumb poking out. It seemed soft to the touch as Yayo's hand was able to fit around the entire edge of it.
I reach my hand back and slowly, shakily grip her palm, hoping at the very least the I'm a neutral merchant will buy my comrades enough time to maybe get this guy if, business needs to happen.
The hand was shaken. I saw everyone tense, on edge. I didn't quite understand what this was. I sort of pulled over to the side, looking over to Arcot and Strege. Do either of you know what this is?
Higher up the chain.
So they're higher than the slime?
Yes.
I miss him.
And more dangerous.
So, Miss Merchant, I have a big question for you.
Of course, anything.
All right, so I'm gonna cut to the chase because I know how busy you all are.
Of course.
Okay, how about you and me and the Galoins of the town, we all make a truce.
A truce?
Yeah, you heard it right.
Oh, wow.
You see, Madam Bitter, she's been, well, you know, she's, kind of a bit of a meanie, and I don't really like meanies.
Oh my god.
I know, isn't that bad?
Oh my god. Really? In our dungeon?
I could never.
Her form seemed to dangle for a moment as her entire body sort of shifted and readjusted for a moment.
Look, there's a very bad meanie, and we gotta stop her. The dungeon's in chaos, and we gotta do something about it. I see you're already doing something, and I support that. All of the other dolls have been siding with a bunch of meanies, but the Galoins have always been nice to me, so I want to be nice to them as well.
That a lie?
She lies as easily as she breathes, but she also seems to be putting in half-truths as well.
Right now, we're just looking for dead Galoins in their books, and then we can leave.
Oh, well, that's super interesting. I can give a hand with that. Make it our first little agreement. And I think you'll find that we'll already be working together before you know it. Because after all, there's something that's very bad happening beyond a door up ahead. Not the one over there. That's a trapdoor. That'll just kill you.
Oh my god.
Her finger shifted over to the side.
That wall. The one that has no slots for shooting arrows in it. On the top left, right over there.
Okay.
If you go find a secret passage there, you'll find a different door that brings you to the skeletal assembly chamber. That got moved over to the east side recently. Isn't that so funny? Next to all the bodies?
That's wild. So
It's like the little old mountain was listening to us to make things as convenient as possible.
that's
for Madam
so
Bitter, at
fortunate.
least.
Oh, yeah. For her.
Sorry, Miss Sweet?
Her body twisted as the entire doll seemed to shift.
Yes?
You said skeleton assembly.
Mm-hmm.
So these aren't... not to presume, I'm relatively new here, but I thought most of the skeletons that were under employ were intact from the people who had perished. Are you saying they are a construction from multiple?
Oh, now. You have to understand, skeletons are intensely valuable, and it's a very careful process to preserve the brain for use in the skeletal assembly. So we make sure to do a careful process of stripping and making sure all of the skeletons are perfectly ready. A quick run through of the oven and everything works out quite fine after removing the head. One skeleton carefully strips and they're reassembled back together again.
My, what a fascinating process.
We've got it down. After all, one necromancer making skeletons takes a lot of time, so the Lich made sure to make a wonderful process for assembly. But between you and me, I think it's a little mean, you know? Taking the art of necromancy and distilling it down to just, a process. Me, I'm one with the people, and I think an individual touch makes everything so much sweeter. Don't you, little merchant?
Yeah, of course. Hey, who would be currently profiteering from that skeletal assembly? That wouldn't be that me, Miss Bitter.
Oh, that mean old Madam Bitter? Oh, you know.
Okay, so you would never do anything like take advantage of skeletal assembly to go conjure an army of the undead, now would you?
Oh, no.
Of course.
I'm putting my faith in the Galoins, not silly
Oh.
skeletons.
Wow, okay. That's wonderful. I think this truce has incredibly strong grounding. I would be happy to represent you when talking to the Elder.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Oh, but you'll want to go quick before you go back home.
Right.
After all, I'm pretty sure the Master Assembly is already in the process of stripping some Galoin bodies. And I don't think he's going to care much about what's inside.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's go.
Watch out for the traps.
Of course.
As Yayo stepped off in that direction, moving over the pressure point, one of the blades just swing down and barely managed to avoid taking off her head.
Okay, just somebody else is going first.
Bye-bye.
And like that, she was gone again, slipping off beneath back into that vault in the wall.
Oh boy.
That's a problem for later. We gotta
You
get,
know what? I'm inclined to agree.
we need to get to Master Assembly. If they're, we can't let them do that to, our friends' bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would not be very happy to see skeletal loins doing anything around here.
I watched Estrege grab the body and, with his arms just sort of pushed and shoved, a number of gruesome traps went off as another one of those guillotines hanging above swung down and cut up at the body. But as that happened, we continued moving forward, pushing individual through every trap bit by bit. So we found ourselves moving towards that skeletal assembly chamber. As we moved into a dark hallway, we found ourselves entering into a place that was even yet darker, only lit by strange absinthe pillars that were glowing with a green energy as we entered. And inside we saw a truly wide display of different bodies, glowing, strewn, different sizes of entity, all held within, being assembled into different piles. A long line of them assembled with one single skeleton sorting skulls and the other ones beginning to move bodies. And far off into the distance, we also saw a furnace that sat there, glowing with heat. It seemed like there was a pillar, an entire assembly area for different types of bodies to be dumped out of the furnace after being purged of any sort of flesh. Vials of blood and pooling all throughout. On a large, glowing circle that hung far into the end of the room. But that was not the only thing. As a number of skeletons turned to see us, immediately preparing to fight, there was one thing hanging. You could see it around, a rail system that was sliding along throughout the entire roof. And on that rail system, something seemed to shift and move, vibrating back and forth. It was dark at first, but as it slowly appeared, you could see the glow inherent within it. As it passed by the absent circle, picking up some of that loosed magic, it began to twist and turn as its form itself was something akin to a chandelier, but not quite, as multiple forms began to pop out and twist their way around. As it turned up, we saw the form of Master Assembly once more appear before us. It slid, moving down, pulling itself through the railways. It began slowly shifting over. All of them, an assembly just pulling through as it managed to slide across the way, grabbing and ripping up a body as it moved, pulling it up almost directly, but then stopping, the entire machine just sort of coming to a halt as it turned. One of the skeletons waved, another one looked across. One of the fake golden skulls began speaking, a whisper in disguise.
Autonomous process interrupted.
Another one speaking and said,
Please dispense of all unwanted intruders.
the last one speaking as well.
Add them to the pile.
They say it's been too long. It's so nice to see you. You're a good friend of mine. So long farewell at you. No, I can't believe, oh no, not words from thee, but said in facsimile, yearning for that distant we. So I'm searching for near eternity, but I don't know where I should be. Love of branch, no family tree, no friends I have to see. An unfriendly propensity is my natural state to take flight in perpetuity. And so echo back is only me, cut off from preciously.
Downward thrust. Slam.